Welcome to Bible Slash Chat.
Here you go.
Gus, hello.
You started again without
I
me
started
being
again
ready.
without you being ready, but that's okay. You don't mind,
It's
right?
fine. I live ready.
I live ready.
I live
That's a lie.
in the ready position.
I believe you're alive.
Yes. Speaking of readiness,
oh my stars, this is the worst segue in the history.
we
of
have a
segues.
problem in our church.
We do. It's actually a good problem to have.
People read the Bible.
They do.
And they ask questions.
They do.
And then all of a sudden now,
the questions are hard.
Then you are the Hank Hanegraaff of the Bible.
Oh no! Don't say that. I'm not an Eastern Orthodox. Trust me.
The Bible answer man.
Yes,
that's what
exactly.
I meant. So we had a question about Leviticus 12.
Yeah.
A lady from our church.
Yeah.
A young woman.
Helpful question.
Yeah. So the church has to do with purity, impurity after childbirth, and purification after childbirth.
Yeah.
So the question is, so when a woman in the Old Testament, under Old Testament law, gives birth to a girl, her purification is twice as long as though as she would get. Am I saying the right way?
Yeah, I think that's right. As her purification, if she has a male
purification,
child.
if she had a male child.
Yeah.
So the question is, why?
Yeah. So this is super complex. Just to read it, just to give context here, Leviticus 12, verse 2, verse 1, it says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, When a woman gives birth and bears a male child, then she shall be unclean for 7 days, as in the days of her menstruation she shall be unclean. On the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. Then she shall remain in the blood of her purification for 33 days. She shall not touch any consecrated thing, nor enter the sanctuary until the days of her purification are completed. But if she bears a female child, then she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her menstruation, and she shall remain in the blood of her purification for 66 days, for a total of 80 days. When the days of her purification are completed, for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the doorway of the tent of meeting a 1-year-old lamb for a burnt offering and a young pigeon of a turtle dove for a sin offering. And then she makes these offerings and says, verse 8, the priest shall make atonement for her and she will be clean. Okay, so that's just to put context to it. So what's going on there? Now, there are
pretty
passages.
Graphic.
I mean, it's graphic. Okay, so there are texts.
I was smiling because I was thinking, can今us preaching through this.
Yeah, it's
anytime soon.
No, we'll do it sometime.
Sure.
Okay, so here's what's difficult about this, and there are actually a lot of these in the Mosaic Law. Mm-hmm. There are laws where we don't have the reason given, just the law itself. So in this case, we have a fairly complex law. There's a few others that are very interesting, like for example, don't boil a baby goat in its mother's milk.
Yeah.
We don't actually know why that law exists. That stipulation is just given in the Mosaic Law. Mm-hmm. So when you have a stipulation that's given like this one, you say, well, what's going on here? What is the basis for this law? And to be honest, we don't know. So there's a lot of questions about what this could be, what could be happening here. And it's very difficult to know. It's actually impossible to know completely. Most scholars put it in one of two potential categories. One category is that the woman is the giver of life, right? She's the one who brings life into the world. And as such, as the giver of life, she is called to remain pure for a certain period of time. When she gives birth to a male child, the purification there is just for herself in terms of that, in terms of the life giver. So the male isn't that. But with the baby now you have another girl. So now you have two givers of life, one for the mother and one for the daughter. And so you have two, and so those two come together and you have 80 days of purification instead of the 40 for the male. That's one potential option, which is sort of like tied with the whole Eve. Eve is the one who's going to bring the Messiah into the world, and she's the one who's going to give life. She bears life, and so the purification is there. Now, the question obviously is, why would having a female child cause the woman to remain in her state of purification for an extended period of time? It's hard to say. That's the question. Why does that fall back on the mom? There's really no answer for that in the text. It's not made clear. The other possible option that scholars point to is that during this time there's a lot associated with fertility cults. in pagan societies around them. Fertility cults venerated women who give birth, and particularly women who give birth. There's veneration of women who give birth to girls because that's that reproduction cycle continuing again. So the fertility cult, you have the mother and the daughter, and that fertility cult, there would have been veneration of women in that state. But if you have a woman who's impure, she's unable to be among the do anything consecrated. She has to stay at home. Her days of purification are longer. It puts her past the period of time that there would be any veneration of her. So in a sense, it's God putting a law in place in order to protect the nation of Israel from idolatry or pagan practices of veneration for fertility, for the fertility goddesses that were around them. So is it the one or the other? Or is it something else? Honestly, we don't know. It's not made clear in the text. It's just a stipulation that's placed there. So then when you come to a text that's difficult like this, and you say, well, I'm not even sure why this is, what we have to do is fall backwards onto the truth that God is good, that God is not, that there is not like some kind of sexism here or some kind of misogyny. Those things aren't there. God isn't evil in what he's doing. He's providing some type of protection. Again, we don't know why, but he's providing some type of protection for these moms and protection for the nation at large. So what's happening here? Not sure. Very difficult to say. Those are two possible options. At the end of the day, we just trust that God is good and that his ideas, that these rules are here in place to protect the nation of Israel for their good.
Much like the other laws, I kind of have the same idea, believe the same thing. Much like most of the laws, God is trying to make Israel different.
Yeah.
And so, again, it could be the fertility cult, it could be something else. But what we do know is that none of the other people around them did this.
Right.
And this is something that was given to them to do as a law. Doesn't apply to us, obviously.
Yeah.
But it is pretty interesting that it's here. And again, even what we were saying before we started the video, I couldn't imagine Moses writing this down, reading it.
Yeah, he's transcribing.
But the Bible doesn't blush at all when it deals with this.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think when we come to other texts, there's a good reading principle here. If you hit something that is hard to understand, dig into it, see if you can figure it out. And then when you realize maybe there's nothing to be figured out, I can't figure it out completely, we have to leave that with the Lord, and it's part of culture, maybe the surrounding culture or the culture that God is trying to protect him with. We'll just leave it at that and trust that God is good.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good. Well, hope that's helpful for you on that text. Very interesting passage. If you have questions on that or any other text, feel free to email us. Our email is info@faithbibleoc.org. Thanks so much.